It may be October, but it's Flipmas for Colorado.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for tuning in, making me your first listen of the day. Let's dive right into it. Colorado had a massive recruiting weekend, but it wasn't at home. You guys all know which game I'm talking about. The Buffs, when they went to UCF, it was reported that there was over 100 recruits in attendance, and a lot of the recruits in attendance, or at least some, we'll say some, were interested in peeping the Buffs. And how could you not be, right? Deion Sanders made it clear that he wants to recruit the Sunshine State, and obviously Colorado has some momentum, and they got some more momentum after that game. And so why would you not be interested? Heck, even Cormani McClain was at the game, right? Florida had a bye week, and he was there. I think they had a bye week. He was there regardless, but everyone was in attendance, right? And one of the recruits that John Garcia Jr. came on this show, my former co-host and Rivals recruiting analyst now, one of the recruits that he said that we needed to look out for was defensive lineman Christian Hudson. The 3-star out of Daytona Beach, goes to Mainland High School, ranked as the 41st defensive lineman in the country, 47th player in the state of Florida. He was a UCF commit, and he committed to UCF back in July. So he'd been committed for quite some time. And this past in 2023, he had 9 sacks, a forced fumble, 3 pass breakups, a fumble recovery. And so he brings the boom, if you know what I mean. Like, this guy's a hustle player. He's listed at 6'1", 280. His scouting report kind of lists him a little bit shorter than that, but they talk about his energy. They rave about his energy. And so this is what 24/7 Sports had to say about him. A potential spark plug in the middle, 2-way lineman for a decorated Mainland program that makes things happen on both sides of the football. Under 6'1", but always finds ways to win leverage and effort. Initially was viewed by some colleges as an offensive lineman at the next level, but made it clear he wants to chase quarterbacks after racking up 9 sacks as a junior. Impressive snap anticipation jolts him forward, while active hands allow him to disengage and swipe past would-be blockers. Oftentimes aware of his surroundings and is agile enough to stop and retrace. Also has a knack for getting his hands up in passing lanes despite being on the smaller side. Might lack the ideal measurables, but projects as a win-at-all-costs interior defender that could push pockets. Likely to find most success in an even front, but has experience working out of a variety of different alignments. For me, I hear undersized, I hear full of effort, and my brain immediately goes to Chidozie Nwankwo, right? Chidozie's listed at 5'11", 290, and he is currently one of the best players on this Colorado team. He's already made an impact this year. He has a sack on the year, 8 total tackles, and he just brings an energy that the defense needs. He brings the leadership that the defense needs. And so Colorado has a blueprint for young Mr. Hudson here, right? They will show him Chidozie's film and be like, hey, that's you. And he's a little bit bigger than Chidozie already. I mean, Chidozie's listed at, like I said, 290, 5'11". And so if this guy's, we'll just call him 6 foot, 280, he's going to get into the college weight room and say he grows an inch, 6'1", and then he's going to gain some weight, maybe 300, 310. This guy is going to have the size. He has the energy. He has the effort, and he has everything that you want in your defense lineman, right? Like he's going to bring the energy. So for Colorado's recruiting class, let's talk about where they are now. Still not the biggest class. They rank as the 83rd class in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. Headlined by Chauncey Gooden, the offensive lineman. Quanell Farrakhan from North Shore, Houston, Texas. He's been making some noise. Alex Graham is another player who headlines this class, 3-star. And then Christian Hudson ranks right under him. So he's their 4th highest ranked recruit. They also have Antonio Branch Jr., the safety, who they flipped, Montrez Walker, Zane D'Souza, Corbin Lazier, and then Jay Garden Hire. So, and Carday Smith's going to be in town this weekend. Julian Lewis is going to be in town this weekend. So Colorado has a chance to go on a bit of a recruiting run. And as John said when he came on the show last week, which was a fun episode. I love catching up with John. You guys should go check it out and sort of just see what we talked about, because I don't remember everything he said. He talked, but I do remember what we talked about. And it was which recruits were going to be guys that Colorado's making efforts for, guys who they're trying to flip. And this was one of them. Julian Smith was another. And he just talked about the effort that Coach Prime and his staff are putting in, right? There's coaches who are traveling to watch recruits, and that's not something that Coach Prime and his staff had done before. Coach Prime still hasn't done it, but Pat Shermer went to go see Keelan Russell, the 5-star Alabama commit, right? Phil Loadhall was out on the recruiting trail. Like, they are putting in efforts to recruit, and I think that's a big deal. And they got a victory in Christian Hudson. Let's see if they could keep it going. But I do like what he brings to the table. Again, it never hurts to have guys who are super passionate and undersized. Like, undersized players, I think, often get a bad rap because it's like, they're not going to be able to play right away. And that's okay if he's not able to play right away. This team should not be relying on true freshmen at every position. It's not to say that true freshmen can't have an impact, but you shouldn't be relying on true freshmen to like be starters right away. But what I will say is he comes off as someone who's willing to put in those efforts, who's willing to learn, practice, get those reps, however he can get them, and then make his impact. So really big get for Colorado there. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about who I think will have a standout showing in Colorado's game on Saturday. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how to use it. First, you drink your pre-alcohol. For best results, make sure to drink your pre-alcohol for your first drink of the night. Secondly, always drink responsibly. You got to pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And then third, you enjoy tomorrow. You wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. So if you want to make sure that you're feeling fresh after a night out, go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at PrizePicks. And let me tell you about PrizePicks. I have a ton of fun playing PrizePicks because it's a fun way to win money. It's a fun way to dabble in picking a little gambling, right? But it's way easier. It's way more simple. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money on sports action with over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings. PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 or more players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. The best part is to get in on the action in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, and Texas. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. When players are going off, which ones aren't? Which players are going off? Who knows? Only you and them will know, but you get to make all the predictions. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 off instantly, or to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Let me tell you, it's really fun. I've hit on my last 3 PrizePicks lineups. I've found a lot of success in betting on which college quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions. So make sure to get in on the action with PrizePicks. It's really fun and you won't be disappointed. Welcome back to Locked on Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So thank you guys for tuning in. Let's talk about who I think are going to be standouts for Colorado, right? I posted on the Locked on Buffs X account, Twitter account, whatever you want to call it, who are some of the guys that I think will stand out in offense. One of them is pretty obvious, but you always have to go with them, right? So these are my 3 players to watch. I'll do 3 players on offense, 3 players on defense. Players to watch on offense starts and finishes with Shedeur Sanders, right? I think this offense goes as he goes. Obviously, that's not a surprise that the quarterback is going to have a big impact, but Shedeur Sanders is sort of in the spot where I feel like he, in a way, is being overlooked somehow this season. Like, I think people are just like, whatever, it's Shedeur Sanders. Like, I don't feel like he's generating the same amount of buzz. And so I feel like he needs a little bit of a bounce back game in the sense of he threw 2 picks last week, which is rare for him, right? He usually doesn't make mistakes that end up in interceptions or turnovers, right? And he had 2 last week. Plus, I think it was his first game in 3 weeks, which, I mean, this is a crazy stat, where he didn't complete more than 80% of his passes. And so a down game for Shedeur Sanders was 69.7%. Realistically, I don't think the corners on Cincinnati can contain this wide receiver unit. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to have his way. And I think that's why he's going to be a standout, right? I think he's going to make an impact in a way that we know he can. And I think he's going to sort of have somewhat of an explosive game. Let's go to my next one, Isaiah Augusta. He was named the starting running back by Coach Prime. Isaiah Augusta hasn't put up loud numbers by any means, but he makes an impact. And I think by being named the starter, there could be a chance for him to sort of, I don't know, maybe he's going to feel himself. Maybe he's going to be a little more comfortable, right? He averages the most yards after contact on the team in terms of running backs. And I'm ready for an Isaiah Augusta breakout game, and I feel like this could be it, right? You want to establish the run. You want to get the run involved. You don't need the run to be like a 300-yard production every game. It'd be cool, right, if Colorado ran for like 200 yards, but they don't need that. But I do think Isaiah Augusta is due for somewhat of a breakout performance here or in the near future. And then lastly, LeJohntay Wester. Outside of Travis Hunter, which, I mean, Travis Hunter is always going to be a star player. LeJohntay Wester has been right there. He leads it in terms of importance, right? He leads a team in average yards per catch at third, or excuse me, he's third. Wow. Sorted that wrong. But he's behind Omarion Miller, who's no longer playing, and then Jimmy Horn and Will Shepherd. Okay, wow, I'm just all over the place. He's fourth, but still, he's fast. He's quick. He's in open space. I'll be honest, I was looking at Will Shepherd's averages right now when I was writing down my notes, so that was a little blunder on my part. But either way, LeJohntay Wester leads the team in receiving touchdowns. That I know for a fact. And secondly, he's just always open, and I think Shedeur trusts him a lot. This past game was the first game since week 1 that he didn't record a touchdown. And ironically, it was his most productive game. He had 8 catches, which was a season high, 127 yards receiving, season high, 15.9 yards per catch, a long of 46, which the 46-yarder was his longest of the season. So LeJohntay Wester and Shedeur Sanders seem to really be, I won't say building the connection, but they really seem to be connecting a lot more. And I think that's great for Colorado, bad for defenses. Now let's go to, speaking of defense, let's go to Colorado side of the ball. Let's talk about guys who I think will be standouts. One, I like Nikhill Green, and this isn't a shocker, right? He leads the team in tackles with 53. He has 2 sacks on the year, 2 pass deflections. The guy just does everything right. Like, he is exactly what Colorado needed at linebacker. He does absolutely everything they need. He's a leader. He hits hard. He tackles. He can make plays. Rushing the passer, he can make plays in coverage. And I think he's someone that we all need to look out for. Travis Hunter, he's another one where it's like, obviously, Travis Hunter, he's going to be a standout. No duh. Well, he's been injured the last 2 weeks, and I don't think we've seen the best of Travis Hunter by any means. And I think, realistically, he needs to sort of, not that he should be putting the Heisman Award above everything else, but if he wants to get back into the Heisman race, well, he kind of is in it still, but if he wants to stay in it and catch up to Mr. Ashton Genty, who is currently the favorite, he's got to have a big game. And I think this is a game where Brendan Sorsby has thrown some picks in the past few weeks, right? He's made some mistakes. Is this a game where Travis Hunter gets on him early and gets a pick out of him? I think it could be. And then lastly, my other standout, you got to go Samuel Kunalola or BJ Green. I think I'm going to go Samuel O because he is currently leading the way with sacks. Him and BJ Green's tied with him. But it feels like Samuel O has flipped a switch lately, and BJ Green too, to his credit. But Sam had a sack against UCF, and then all of a sudden 2 this past week. I feel like there's been a switch flipped. I don't know if it's going to be like a constant, like he's going to be recording 2 sacks a game. I feel like that'd be cool, but probably a little unreasonable to expect. But I do think he's figuring out sort of his style, sort of what works for him. And I think if you're a quarterback, you probably should be terrified because you have him, you have BJ Green running off the other edge. So I really, really think that this is going to be an interesting game for Colorado. And I think Samuel O is going to get some. I think he's going to make a little bit of a statement this next game. So you guys comment below, which players do you think will have the biggest impact for Colorado in their game against Cincinnati? When we come back, we're going to talk about Nikhill Walker. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com to get in on the action. Let's talk about it. Not every story is about football. Not every story is a fun one. I think this one's a little bit of a more serious one, and I think Coach Prime handled it the best way possible. I really do. At least today, that's when the video started making its rounds on social media. Nikhill Walker revealed to the team that he has. I want to make sure I get this right. He was diagnosed with lymphoma. He's got to go through chemo. He had a bump on his chest that it was there for about a week. He sort of thought it would go away, and then when he went to trainers, the trainers had to go and do surgery, and they found out that he had lymphoma, and so he is talking to the team, and Coach Prime had him tell the team. So he's talking about why he hasn't been around that much, and sort of why he's like just hasn't been there, right? Because he's been in and out of the locker room, and I guess, and hasn't always been there. And so I'm sure you start to notice when your teammate's missing, your locker mate, your position group guy, or someone that you talk to all the time. Like, you notice it's not like easy to hide these things. And so he has a type of blood cancer that develops into the lymphatic system. And so he was telling the team about it, and he said, and it's like hard to hear this because obviously the young man he's worried about his health, but obviously he wants to be involved with the team, right? And so he told them that the reason he wasn't around was he didn't want to be a distraction. And I think Deion Sanders catches a lot of flack for how he runs the program, how loud he is, how many stars are on the sidelines or whatever. But one thing that people can never take away from him, whether you agree with how he does anything, you can never take away how genuine he is. And so this was my favorite quote. There was two quotes that stood out to me. One of them was, "We love you and we're here for you." But after Walker said that he didn't want to be a distraction, Coach Prime said, "You're never a distraction, you're a blessing." And I thought that was really, really kind of him. Really, really nice. Because obviously this guy, he doesn't want to distract his teammates. He even said he wants to watch the team make it to a bowl game, make it to the Big 12 championship, win the national championship, whatever it is, right? Like, he still has goals for this team, and he still wants to see them do it. It's just he's unable to be a part of it right now. And Coach Prime made him feel like, which, I mean, as he should, right? But he made him feel like he's a part of this team still. They are a family. They will always have his back. And so I thought that was really, really, really special. Sending my thoughts and prayers with Nikhill, as I hope you guys will, as I hope you guys do as well. Really tough for a young, athletic young man to have to go through something like this, but he kind of cited his faith and that this is his journey, and he believes that this is his path. And so I'm firmly confident that with an attitude like that, he'll be just fine. I hope all the best for him and his family, and hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Make sure to go send your best wishes to Mr. Walker. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. This has been Locked On Buffs. I will see you guys tomorrow after the game against Cincinnati. I do a live reaction. Make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and follow. And like I said, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Everyone have a great Friday night.